Tell people what a Super 7 stone is, because this is just so fascinating to me.
It's basically a piece of quartz where 7 different minerals are growing together, but they're like 7 minerals that don't usually occur in the same place. So when it happens, it's like really cool.
It's a magical stone.
Yeah.
I love it. I keep it in a very
All stones are magical.
All stones are magical.
They are, yeah.
But would you say the Super 7 stone is particularly magical?
I think everyone has a stone that they vibe with. Like you from day one loved that stone.
Yeah.
You know,
what the other one was? The Cobalto calcite.
Yeah, that's the other one. And for me, like agates was 100% like my first love. And then geodes.
Describe the color of an agate, because it's actually a little bit surprising.
Well, it varies. I mean, there are all different varieties of agates. They come in like, but agates refer to the stones that have the bands of color. And they can be like in the reds and rust family. They're like neutrals. There's blue, there's pink, there's gray. It just depends on where the agate comes from.
And what do you think it is about agates that you respond to so much?
They look like beautiful, like paintings. It's almost impossible to believe that just over millions of years, mineral after mineral just layered on and made these amazing formations that no human being ever thought of this. It's just so fucking cool.
Do you have your Cinco de Mayo cocktail?
I do.
You do?
Uh-huh.
Okay, good, because you said we had to have like Cinco de Mayo cocktails.
Cinco de Mayo.
Okay, yours looks like a classic margarita. No?
Mine is Trader Joe's fresh grapefruit juice.
Oh.
With Casa Dragones, splash of water, and this black salt that I swiped from Hawaii.
Oh wow, black salt. How chic. Of course it's like a chic cocktail. Okay, mine is Casamigos. With roses, lime juice, and frozen dragon fruit. That's why you have
fancy.
Whoa, you have that color of that calcite stone. So what are you working on in quarantine?
We are setting up our e-commerce, which will launch in a little less than a month. And we will be opening our e-commerce base as well as a small retail operation in Atlanta.
Kimberly, I didn't know that. Did you tell me that before?
No, because it just happened.
This is Scoop.
Scoop.
The podcast is linked here in the chat. You did a little bait and switch on me. The podcast is linked in the chat. We cover so many topics, but one thing that we did not cover was the opening of this small retail operation.
Yeah.
Which is very exciting to be doing something like that amidst all that's happening, especially in your city. I mean, I guess things are moving along for you in that respect, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's unfortunate when people, obviously we all want to get out and get back to some sense of like a new normalcy, but these big parties and big gatherings, it's so ridiculous. If people would just like social distance, stay in your lane, we could get through this. Like,
so funny. That's the term that I always use. It's just like time to stay in your lane a little bit, right? Like, don't be trying to do anything big and complicated. Yeah. But anyway, e-com is really exciting because hey, Jenny Capitan.
Hi, Jenny.
Huge fan of Kimberly's jewelry. Put Kimberly's jewelry on Oprah Winfrey. I don't know how many times.
Thank you.
What I was going to say was, it must be particularly exciting. Well, e-commerce for you is like going to be huge. I'm assuming that it will be a website that houses both your home collection and your jewelry collections.
As well as the resort wear, men's soft goods, pocket squares, bow ties, puppy pouches, like everything candy. Yeah, it'll have stuff that we haven't sold in retail, and we won't sell in retail.
What are soft goods? I'm like,
just like cummerbunds, pocket squares.
Oh, all those fabric items. That's so exciting. What was the e-commerce experience for you like? You know me well, and you know that I've spent the last 6 years learning about and launching e-commerce. So tell me what it was like for you. Was it hard?
Well, we haven't finished our site. It is like, it's a no joke process. It's really, really freaking hard. Yeah. Because you want to convey the right message. You want to give the right amount of information. You also just, don't want to overcomplicate things. You want the, product to be super appealing for people who don't know the line. I think it'll be easy to shop for people who've already seen pieces from the line, whether it's the home collection, jewelry, resort wear. But you want to think of the people that have never even heard of Kimberly McDonald. So you want to make it fun for them too, and exciting for them.
Yeah, and you'll have that e-com presence on the web, and people who may not have seen you before will come find you.
I hope so.
I think we're going to be able to link to you guys. Hopefully we will.
Yes.
Show us your gems. What you're wearing. What are you wearing right now?
I'm wearing the scarab.
She's all decked out in
I love it. This is my birthstone, citrine. And then I have the all diamond lion. I've got a opal, and then this is vintage Van Cleef.
Oh, I love it. Mixed with a little vintage. We actually have a question about sort of vintage jewelry coming up from one of the followers. A lot of followers have logistical questions about what it's like to be a jeweler. So, but first from Leah, have you ever had to make an over-the-top custom piece for a client?
Yeah, several. Several.
Yeah. What would you say was your are you allowed to say?
Well, I think most people know, but some of your followers might not know that I worked with Jason Wu on the former First Lady Michelle Obama's second inaugural ball gown, and it was over the holidays. I think we had like 6 or 7 working days to make it, and it was like this great ring that was like all different shaped and sized diamond jewel encrusted, and it kind of held the dress together in the center. So that was over the top and like kind of a crazy experience, because obviously everyone's closed over the holidays. And a custom piece, So thanks to good relationships, we got it done. Yeah,
amazing. Dean is asking, what would you say is the biggest obstacle for a fine jeweler?
First is it's a freaking expensive business to get into.
Right.
So you have to have.
I have a feeling you would say that.
Yeah, you have to have capital, and then, since I started in this business, it's changed a lot, and not that many stores actually buy. So not only do you have to finance all your samples, you pretty much have to finance most of your stores, and then wait to get paid. So that can be. It's the financial part of it is the biggest drawback, and I think it's the biggest barrier to entry for anybody, because who doesn't want to play with, beautiful gemstones and be creative with that? I'm very, very lucky. I have, I had a good start on my own, and then I have a business partner who has my back and is totally supportive. So I'm lucky, but I know I don't have the typical
100%. I would have to. It's the one thing you think of when you think of fine jewelry and all the precious materials that goes into it. Cleo asks, is there a best way to care for and store fine jewelry? That's kind of an interesting one. Like, I think people might overlook proper. How do you store and care for all your pieces?
I have boxes. I have boxes that I keep everything organized. Rings go in a ring container. I don't like to see things piled on top of each other, especially with the stones we work with, like opals and agates and stuff. And emeralds, they can easily be scratched. So when you're talking about gold and diamond, I tend to just soak my things overnight in like warm water. I don't even use a soap, because if you soak them overnight in water, get up the next morning, just, plug your sink so it doesn't go down the drain.
My mind is blown right now.
Why?
You soak fine jewelry in warm water overnight.
Yeah, and if it's gold, 14, I would guess 10 karat or higher, and natural stones, diamond, etc. The ones I don't soak overnight are pearls, emeralds, opals. That's more just like rinsing them off. I think with those stones, I like to tell people that maintenance is key. If you're constantly keeping them clean every time you wear them, you don't have to like do a deep cleaning. It's hard on those stones. Like, they can't take a lot of chemicals. They can't take heat, so you can't really steam them. So, that's what I say. Okay, and if you're cleaning geodes, don't stick your finger in it. Don't stick your finger in all the little crystals. Just don't.
Just don't.
Warm water. Yeah, same thing. With geodes, you can soak them overnight. I mean, they come from creek beds, so they are fine with water.
Right. My mother wants to know what is.
Hi, Mom.
What's the green stone you're wearing around your neck?
This is an opal.
It's an opal. It's a very green opal.
Gorgeous. Yeah, it's like gorgeous. Green and blue.
It's gorgeous. My mother's a sucker for anything green. That's like her color.
Yeah, green's my color today.
Yeah, somebody in the chat just asked which stones you find the most classic. I feel like classic is not your wheelhouse these days.
Yeah, classic for me or classic for everybody else?
I don't know. Why don't you answer that question? Classic for you.
I think classic for me, geodes, agates, and opals. Yeah. Those are like my three.
Yeah. Gina wants to know if you can recommend a good safe for her home.
We work with a safe company. Shoot. I just would go with a professional safe company in your area. They'll come in, they'll explain it, and then they'll maintain it. So God forbid, like, you know, the battery goes out, the power, something happens, you need it serviced. We always work with a safe company, but get someone reputable.
A professional safe company.
Exactly.
Yeah, not some, you know, a lot of the safes that people think are
ABC lock, maybe.
Right, and then it's sort of like thing can be picked, it could be picked up, it could be, right. It's a good tip. Ingrid says she needs to get her jewelry appraised and she doesn't know where to begin. Help. I agree. I think I have some pieces that I'd like to figure out more about.
I think you just have to work with someone that you trust, and someone, I mean, we do a lot of appraisals for clients that own our pieces, and we do it for pieces that aren't ours. I think the key to getting a good appraisal is for the person to know what they're doing first and foremost, and then to have a fair value. You don't want to pay insurance like a crazy rate of insurance if you're only covered for replacement. So you want to get all your information about your insurance together, and then speak with, you know, your agent. Make sure, are you getting replacement value, or are you getting what you paid for it, and then just go with somebody you trust.
So maybe word of mouth is the best way to find an appraiser. I mean, appraisers.
I think every major city has like people who that's all they do, and then there's some people that do it on the side, like they have like insurance jobs dealing with these pieces all day long, and as their side business they do it. So it's I think it's just probably word of mouth.
Clint asks if you sketch your pieces. Do you sketch?
No.
She doesn't.
No.
I think we covered that on the podcast.
I put them in wax.
I put them in wax.
I arrange them. I flip them upside down on a copy machine, and then I make copious notes.
Wow, that's right. You just put them on a copier, right? Jill asks, where do you buy all of your one-of-a-kind stones? That's a big question. That's what you spend a lot of your time doing.
Well, Jill, I'm not going to tell you that.
That's right.
How this goes is,
well, maybe the more general question is, you probably just keep an open mind and place trust into some of your partners.
To be able to work with some of the really top level sources in every stone. So when it comes to opals, I have two. I really work with the top two companies. For geodes, I only work with one source, and it's the top source on the planet. And then agates are a little different because they're mostly mined out, so you just have to find people who have old collections. But I think it's just knowing your sources, really. You have to get out and get to know people.
I was with you once when you were having a meeting with one of your stone suppliers, and I actually found it very interesting to sit in on that meeting. It was super interesting to see that interaction. Lola says, what is the largest amount of stones you've bought in one shot?
Well, I mean, when we get the geodes, they come, we get them once or twice a year from Mexico, and they're shipped in like thousands of pairs at a time. And then we have to go through sorting, you know, there's like different grades. Even though we receive the top 30% that the mine yields every year, we separate that 30% into our top third, second, third. And
how do you do that? There's somebody on the team that can look at them and say, this is tier one.
No, I just do it.
You do it.
Yeah. I love it.
Oh, wow. Somebody just said you look very pretty. I agree.
Thank you.
You do. You look beautiful. Sari's asking, what are your biggest sources of inspiration? We touch on this on the podcast, but do you want to speak to inspo?
I just really love all things nature. I'm blown away by, you know, what the planet, if we just leave things alone, the things that nature creates are just really mind-blowing.
I couldn't agree more. Carly, can you share the steps involved in making your geode pieces? They're so raw looking, but they're not at all, right? I mean, they are, but they're they have to be manipulated. And
well, all we do when we receive them, they obviously have been excavated from the creek bed, and then all they do is slice them in. Well, they dust them off. They slice them in half, and they give just a light buff to the inside, so it's not jagged or it doesn't like snag anything. And that's really how we use the geodes. We don't cut them. I don't slice them. I don't believe in it. I'm like, this thing's been whole for 60 to 200 million years, and I feel blessed that I actually get to work with these things. So I try to keep them together. I make more earrings than anything else because I feel guilty if I split them up. But I don't cut them or do anything. No. Yeah. One of my friends said the other day that it's like a collaboration with nature, and I thought that was the perfect way to put it.
That's true. That makes sense. So geodes can be found in creek waters. In any particular part of the world?
Ours come from Mexico, but they exist in different areas. But I believe we have the best source, and yeah, ours come from Mexico, and it's actually a byproduct of the mine actually mines imperial jasper, which is used in all kinds of stuff from jewelry to home decorations, tables, lamps, everything. So for years they were just moving these stones out of the way, and then they sold a few. And once it got out into the market, and I was like backtracking, wow. Finally found the mine, then it just was like next level.
What a thrilling moment. Ben asks, how did you first begin working with geodes?
Hi, Ben, I miss you. I have a very good best friend who's now my business partner who said, I really think you need to do your own thing. And I said, okay, that could be cool. And I went to Tucson just thinking, I just want to find something different. I just want to find something that's organic and rough. And I always liked that juxtaposition of something really rough with something really refined.
Me too.
Yeah, that's how it started.
And before this, the look and feel for the pieces, well, you worked, talk a little bit about what you were doing before Kimberly McDonald Jewelry as we know it today.
Right. Before this, I was a curator for private jewelry collections. So I would work with individuals. Sometimes we would take vintage pieces and remake them, repurpose the stones into something that they would actually wear. Or, I had a client who was an art collector and then turned her collecting habits to jewelry, and she would want a certain kind of emerald or a certain size sapphire or a certain ruby with a certain origin, and so it might take months to find the right stone, and then I would design something. Or I worked with a lot of top designers that were very popular in at that time to have custom pieces made.
Amazing. This is such a funny question. Rosemary, and I get it. Have any of your pieces gotten lost when being borrowed for photo shoots or red carpet?
Knock on wood. I mean, I want to say 2 or 3 in 12 years.
That's not
I'm
bad.
very, very lucky.
Very lucky and not a bad track record.
Yeah.
I will, as a fashion editor and jewelry editor, I will attest to this. That stuff does happen. And sometimes it's heartbreaking. It's a big, complicated mess. There's never like one reason why. So Joy is asking, this is a good question too, will fine jewelry remain stable in this market and during the coronavirus epidemic?
Joy. I mean, I don't know. Joy.
She's like, we're launching e-commerce tomorrow.
I think, yes. My hope is, but it has been for years now, that the consumers in the luxury market will be more informed about how the pieces, whether it's jewelry, clothing, whatever, about the process of making the things that they're investing in, because it is an investment and you want to feel good about how you're spending your money and where it's going. And I'm hoping that if there are changes in the fine jewelry and luxury market, that it weeds out some of the
riffraff.
Not so ethical.
I said it.
Yeah, there you go.
Can't say much more than that, right?
Cheers.
Abby. Oh, I love this. I could talk about this topic all day. Again, it's like what do you call it? A casual, work casualty or something? Whatever. Abby's asking what your favorite red carpet moment is. Which celebrity, quote unquote, wore it best?
Oh my gosh. I've had so many. I mean, my favorite
from
is
a
probably
Kimberly McDonald, like, let's refine this. I'm going to help
okay.
you refine this.
Okay.
From a Kimberly McDonald point of view, like you have a very, you know what you like. You have a very specific style yourself. Let's weed through the, I'm sure there's been a lot of, I know that there have been a lot of thrilling moments, but from a Kimberly McDonald taste, how you see your pieces, is there like an outfit, a celebrity that just stands out?
Well, I think in Sex and the City too, when Sarah Jessica walked out of that elevator and her face was like the whole screen, so the earring was like 30 stories high. I mean, it was my like first year in business. I was blown away. It was so exciting.
We talk about that more on the podcast. And if you guys, if anyone in the chat has not seen Sex and the City 2, take a peek, because as always, Patricia Field, the costume designer, a favorite of mine, a favorite of Kimberly's, does magical things with clothing and accessories, including fine jewelry, and Kimberly's pieces were showcased to perfection. More on your style. Orly asks, Kimberly, describe a typical way that you wear and style your pieces. We're looking at you right now. Just describe how you wear your pieces.
This is probably a light day for me. I like to just layer things, and I think it has a lot to do with my mood. I tend to choose clothing that is a little more like basic, just not like a lot of frills and, stuff. And I like things that are a little bit more fitted, and I just like to layer on all kinds of stuff. And I like to mix, my things with vintage and, other designers here and there.
So the clothing pieces are simple, so the jewelry can do the talking. Exactly. I feel like there's always a color story with you, though, too. Like a real jewelry designer.
I love color.
Yeah. We have another question about color, which I love. Mm-hmm. Stephanie asks, though, how long does it take to make your biggest pieces, and how long your smallest?
So size isn't always a determination of how long something takes. We could quickly get a piece made in, as little as probably 5 days if we needed to.
How long did it take you to complete the Michelle Obama inaugural gown piece?
We only had 7 working days, and it was the middle of Christmas and people were closed. So they probably cranked it out in 4 days. But typically, if a piece is like more complicated, we do these amazing cuffs, and they are very solid, but they actually have some flex to them. But there's you can't. It's like you don't see how it's flexible. And those take like 6 to 8 weeks.
Wow. Patricia, do you have I feel like I know I've had this conversation with you before. I think I have.
We've had every conversation.
I know. Patricia, do you have plans to make the costume jewelry version of your fine jewelry pieces?
I don't right now. When I started, no one was using these stones. So it did take a bit of work, and I think trust in me and my style by some of my first clients who are still my clients, to get them to understand putting these materials into fine jewelry. So I would feel sort of disloyal turning around and going right back to what it used to be. Right. So no, not right now.
I think Amy in the chat is asking what you're drinking. So can you recap for Amy?
Yep. Trader Joe's fresh grapefruit juice, Casa Dragonis, splash of water, and black sea salt from Hawaii. So good.
Kim, I bet you, I don't know if you get this question, but I feel like I hear this a lot in kind of my circles. Mm-hmm. I love jewelry, and I make pieces in gold and diamonds for myself that people have asked me to make for them. So after this is over, COVID-19, I'm thinking about launching a collection. Do you have any advice for me starting out?
Have a lot of money. No. Stick to your, have a lot of money. Stick to your style. Do not appropriate someone else's work. And if it's what you really love, just keep going.
Great advice. Renee, how did you get into designing for the home? We touched on this in the podcast for sure, but you want to?
Yeah, I just love the aesthetics of these stones. I love the natural energy, And I think that anytime you can surround yourself with things that are beautiful and also bring you into a good energy, good vibration, and remind you of things that you love, like nature, it's like no brainer.
Mm-hmm. Are you sitting at your like working desk now or no?
No, I'm in my glam room and it's a mess, but you can see
I was gonna say
I have my pillow.
Well, our next question, maybe we leave that for the end of this. We'll take a few more other questions, and then we'll wrap up with that, because Vivian wants to know what your style is like at home. So maybe you can show us your glam room after this. Okay. Eve, describe your vision for the perfect engagement ring. I thought that was really interesting.
Oh, okay. I think it really depends on the woman. I am not a big diamond fan. So, I mean, if you love big diamonds, we can make it look amazing for you. But I think it has to, the main thing is it has to go with your lifestyle and with your taste. Like, you're going to wear this piece of jewelry every day for the rest of your life, hopefully. And you really want it to be something, you know, don't go for that shock value, because are you going to want that every day? When you're going to a soccer game on Saturday, are you really going to want that? So I think that the most important thing is just understanding the client and what they need and what's going to work for them.
What would you create for yourself?
I'd probably get a tattoo or something stupid like that. I don't know.
I knew it. I mean, be like,
you know, or maybe just like an emerald. I don't know. Yeah.
Any tips? This is what I wanted. Josh Little. Any tips? Oh, you got it. I'm glad you're meeting Josh Little. He's a great fan and follower of Story and Rain. Any tips for buying estate and vintage jewelry?
Know what you're doing. Like, you know, be informed, because it's easy to get ripped off. And past that.
Talk more about that.
You just have to know the hallmarks to look for with different brands. And for me, I mean, I started out buying vintage jewelry at the Marché aux Puces in Paris. So I was a makeup artist right out of college, and I think I have a very good eye for color. So my asset when negotiating prices was I could tell if a stone had been replaced. So when you're buying vintage...
Wait, Kimberly, let me stop you there. You could tell that so you could tell when looking at a vintage setting that it didn't have the stone that was sitting because of its color.
So if you're buying a piece of jewelry and say there's like an emerald bezel, and 3 of the emeralds are clearly a different tone or different shade or slightly different cut than the others, you obviously know those have been replaced. But a lot of people don't look at those details. And then, you know, once you have a piece that's been modified, it's not the more original, meaning if it's intact from day one when Cartier made it and they put it out and no stones have been replaced, nothing's been done, that's the highest value for vintage. And then it just goes down from there. So you just have to know what you're doing. It's not that it doesn't have value, but you can negotiate better prices if you understand what you're looking at.
Right, if it's been manipulated in any way, is basically what you're saying.
Yep.
What colors are you into right now? Asks Gwen, speaking of color.
I love all, I mean, I'm partial to yellow, green, purple.
Yellow, green,
I like all colors, actually. Except red.
And then
I don't like red. How's that? All colors but no red. I won't work I try not to work with red.
You try not to work with red. You don't really wear red either.
I don't like it. Yeah.
You don't like it. It's funny because I'm not a red person personally, but I do have red in my space. You can actually see.
And you always wear red lips.
And I wear a red or a
and it looks so, yeah.
Oh, thanks. The final question was, what will your next collection look like? Or do you know? Or are you just sort of focusing on the website right now?
You know, we don't do, I mean, we do collections. Like we have the King collection with the lions, but really I like to think of this as like an organic thing where we're just constantly making new products within our space. Like I do organic, so I'm not going to all of a sudden start doing something completely different or like huge cut stones and stuff like that's not what I do. So within my space, we're always evolving and changing. You know, we do like the hoops that are all the outlines. you know,
I love those.
and these are new. These are brand new.
Describe them in better detail for us.
We make this as a necklace and bangles. They're just outlines, shapes of like little geodes, and these happen to be all in emerald.
I thought so. They look like they're emerald. So pretty. Are you gonna do more of those?
Yeah, and we have bangles. We have the neck. We have everything. All of these outlines. Yeah.
Great. Well, it was lovely catching up with you. This was so fun. We should do it again.
Absolutely.
Everyone, our podcast with Kimberly McDonald is live. It's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher. We've got a link here in the show notes in the chat before we wrap up. You can also find links to Kimberly's pieces as well as her website in the show notes of the podcast. And we also have one of Kimberly's favorite makeup products. I'm always tapping her for information on fashion and beauty because she's such a beauty junkie and fashionista.
Thanks.
All right, ladies.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here.
Bye.
Bye, guys.